For me to have gone through all that I went through and to come out and achieve the success that I have achieved, I think is a remarkable story. In my mind, I've always said, I don't know why I couldn't have been on Johnny Carson just for the mere fact that I spent 20 years in prison, was on death row, and got out and became a singer-songwriter. I grew up in a family. My father was a Mormon. My mother was Pennsylvania Dutch Amish. There was a lot of strange beliefs. My grandfather used to say, you can't go to heaven if you drink hot liquids. You can't go to heaven if you drink hot liquids. One day I woke up and I said, what the fuck does God care if I drink hot liquids? That don't even make no sense to me. I'm going to drink coffee. I want to take a drink. I want to see what this coffee thing's about. So I started drinking coffee. When I was 58 years old, it took me that long to reconcile in my mind that God didn't give a fuck if I drank hot liquids. But my father was an alcoholic. My father was a guy that beat my mother, ran her head through the wall. Back in the 50s, when that was a way of life. Men beat their wives, they beat their kids. I mean, that was just a way of life. And I know, I talk to my son about that now, and he just can't imagine. Because now if you go to wait a minute, I'll call 911, motherfucker. You ain't hitting me. You know what I mean? When I was 9 years old, I was placed in institutions. And for the biggest part of my life from that point on, I was in institutions. And being in institutions at that young age, I had to be very tough. A lot of people are always saying to me, smile. I say, I don't smile. It ain't what I do. I just grew up being abused by guards, by the penal system in general. And the only way that I found to keep from losing my mind, because I had all these other feelings as a young boy. I mean, there's nothing I would have loved better than to say to the guy in the cell, hey man, how about coming down and just sitting beside me? I just like to feel another person's body close to mine. But if I did that, all of a sudden he's going to think, hey, we got something going on here. So you got to keep those feelings inside of you, okay? Well, what I did to release those feelings was I wrote, and I never let nobody see that side of me, It was, if you would have went to the Ohio State Penitentiary in the 1960s, and when you first went into prison, they would have showed you three inmates. They would have showed you our pictures. I was one of those inmates. The first day you were there, and they would say to you, look at these three men. Remember their faces. If you see them in this prison, do not talk to them. Do not have anything to do with them. Stay as far away from them as you can stay, because they will kill you if you look at them wrong. I was considered to be one of the hardcore criminals of the penal system. I had stabbed 3 or 4 people, hit people over the head with baseball bats, took one guy and shoved his head in a pot of hot chili. I mean, I spit on the warden. I mean, I was an incorrigible, angry young man. And yet, back at my cell at night, I was writing things like, would you lay with me in a field of stone, and great, sentimental words that later, after I got out of prison, I had 5,000 or 6,000 things that I'd written while I was in prison you know, on paper. And then I could look at them objectively and write about that. You know, people are always asking me if things would have been different if I hadn't been in prison. Well, you know, how can I answer that? Because I was in prison, and it's the only thing I know.
He's all in there. You need some time. I need just a minute or two. Everybody says, let me know when you're rolling.
I heard Roseanne Cash one time on an interview, and she said, if I could explain to you where this comes from, I would. She says, and I don't think there's any songwriter or any artist that can say, this is where this comes from. Because if I could, I would channel it into something and bottle it up and sell it. I just know that you can be anywhere. You can, and all of a sudden this idea comes to you and something says, hey dude, pick up a pen and write this down. And if you don't do it at that moment, it's gone forever. You know, as a songwriter, I think that it's your job to paint a picture in somebody's head. If you was an artist drawing a picture, of course you have all your different color paints and different things that you can paint a picture and, you know, show somebody the picture. But all you have as a songwriter is words. Your melody doesn't paint a picture. So your words has to paint a picture. It has to put something, and it might be a different picture to every person that sees it. You know, they might interpret it totally different than what you meant it when you wrote it. People, they see and hear what they want to see and hear in your songs. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's what you meant the song to be. There's a new book out now that this lady psychiatrist just wrote, and I'm on the cover of the book. And she analyzes the songs that we have written, and it says what we meant. And I wrote her a letter, and I said, lady, you are so far off about what I meant when I wrote that song. I mean, you don't even have a clue. And I don't know how you could, you know, write this down in a book and say, this is what I was thinking when I wrote that song. You absolutely have no way of knowing what I was thinking when I wrote that song, or what I was trying to get across when I wrote that song. You can only interpret what it meant to you. You can say that, but you can't state in there, this is what he meant. My songs that I write are very graphic as far as the word content is concerned. And I know that I've often used the example that as an actor in movies, I've seen a lot of movies where people use the word nigger very freely, but nobody ever accuses them of being a racist. I see movies where people shoot each other, but nobody accuses those people of being a murderer. I see movies where they rape women, but nobody actually accuses that actress of being a rapist. But as a songwriter, I have found myself accused of being a racist for using the same type words to paint a picture, which actually, in my mind, and once again, you're talking to a man who's 62 years old. So I grew up in a whole different generation. And back when I was growing up, there were certain things that were stereotyped, more or less. And in recent years, they've become focused on by different groups of people and have tried to say this is wrong. You know, you can't talk like this, or you can't use this subject matter. But to me, when I was growing up, I mean, I heard things like stingy as a Jew, lazy as a Mexican, dumb as a Polak, working like a nigger, okay? These are things that are stereotype things. Doesn't mean that you don't like Polacks. It doesn't mean that you don't like Jewish people. Doesn't mean that you don't like black people. People also need to understand that I spent 22 years in prison, okay? And in that time that I was in prison, I was in an environment where it wasn't the same kind of environment that you grew up in or someone else grew up in. I grew up in an environment that was 89% black people, okay? So I grew up in an environment where that language was used freely. That was a form of communication. And that's how I learned to talk, and I learned to think like that. So in my mind, I didn't think anything about using that language to write songs. But then 20 years later, I find myself on Howard Stern defending myself. You know, I'm being accused of being a racist, although I have a black drummer in my band who's married to a white woman, which I don't kind of see much as any racist doing that. Joe South had a song called Walk a Mile in My Shoes. And I often say to people, you know, don't judge me by any one thing to do with me. If you come to a David Allan Coe concert and you're offended, if you like 19 songs that I sing, and then I sing one song that offends you, and you say, whoa, well, then you know what? I don't need you in my life, you know? Because I don't make music for any one demographic type of person. And my concerts don't go that way. So I have people that heard Mona Lisa Lost Her Smile on a country radio station. And then I have people that heard Fuck Anita Bryant on an X-rated album. And then I have people that heard David Allan Coe and Kid Rock on tour together. And then I have people that heard David Allan Coe and Pantera together. Well, all those people are coming to see me at the same place, okay? The woman that heard Mona Lisa Lost Her Smile doesn't want to hear nigger fuckers. The guy that heard nigger fuckers, he don't want to hear Mona Lisa Lost Her Smile. So the best thing he can do is just sit out Mona Lisa Lost Her Smile and wait for his turn to come around, because I'm not playing to one person. You have to believe in something, and you have to stand up for what you believe in. And it's pretty obvious to me that I haven't been that far off the mark, because I sell a lot of records. And a lot of people identify with me for whatever reason. What country music is supposed to be about is real life, okay? Now, you go to Nashville today and they say to you, do you have any positive love songs for women? And I look at them and I say, motherfucker, you're talking to a guy that's been married 5 times. I don't have no positive love songs to women, no. You know, I got songs about, hey, bitch, you know, why did you do this? I got songs about I drank my wife away. That's the kind of songs I got. Because that's real life. You know what I'm saying? If you went and played Your Cheating Heart for the people in Nashville right now, they'd say, oh, no, we can't do a song like that. No drinking songs, no drug songs. Well, fuck, drinking and drugs and, I mean, and bad relationships, that's what hillbillies live. That's what they go through. Ain't no hillbillies that I know that are living in that little heaven that you're painting for them. I mean, when I went through my divorce, I did a Just Divorced album. I called one side Happy Side, the other side Suicide. You know, and I wrote songs about what I was going through. And I can't tell you how many people that I've gotten letters from that said, you know, I was going to kill myself because I was getting a divorce and I didn't know I could make, and then somebody gave me this album and I listened to this. And now I just want to know, I thought to myself, shit, if David Allan Coe could go through this, why can't I go through this? And the greatest thing that ever happens to me is when someone comes up to me and said, you know, I don't know how to express myself. And I have a hard time talking to people that I love. But you know what? I listened to your album and I heard this song. And you know, I went to my girlfriend and I said, you know, this is how I feel. If you'll just listen to this guy singing this song, this is how I feel. I couldn't tell you this, but this is how I feel. Now, to me, I've done my job. You know, I really done my job when that can happen. You know, and I feel so good about that. You know, because all I can do, and all anybody can do, is share their experiences with you. Okay? Nobody can live for you. Nobody can die for you.
What's unique about David Allan Coe is he's David Allan Coe. He's just who he is.
He's a person, and in just a couple of years, we've really had a privilege to get to know. We met a young man when David was on the Kid Rock concert, touring with him. And I sat and talked to this young man one night, having seen the show so many times. I was looking for anybody to talk to. And I said, boy, that David Allan Coe is really a talented individual. He's really wonderful to listen to. And this young man said he's more than something wonderful to listen to. And I asked him what he meant by that. And he said, well, you know, I never met David Allan Coe until I started working on the Kid Rock tour. And he said, I was on the verge of an addiction problem. And he said, I talked to David Allan Coe a couple of times through the tour. And he said, after the tour was over, a couple months later, he said, I got a 4-page handwritten letter from David Allan Coe telling me things that I had learned in rehab, but he shared them in a way that a human being had never shared them with me before. And he said, I was so impressed and so taken by that. He said, I wish I could share it with you, but it's very private. But he said, a lot of people really don't know the David Allan Coe that I've had the privilege to know. And when I heard that, I wanted to know even more about him.
You know, I've been a member of the Country Music Association for 35 years. I've never even been asked to be a presenter on their award show. You know, I got a Grammy Award for Take This Job and Shove It. They sent it to me in the mail. And it's like, I just never have been accepted. They've always been afraid of me. You know, they could go to Kenny Rogers and say, hey, Kenny, how about taking your earring out for this TV show, okay? Is that all right? And Kenny'd say, oh, yeah, no problem. I'll take my earring out. And I would say, fuck you, you know? And then what Nashville did, they turned around and labeled us outlaws because we wouldn't do it. Another quick story. I went to New York City. They had a sign that said, welcome David Allan Coe. They had my name spelled A-L-L-E-N. Well, my name is spelled A-L-L-A-N. You know? All right, so I go there and I'm supposed to talk to the president of the record company. And I sit in a chair for 4 hours. Finally, they said, you can go in now. This guy was sitting behind a desk smoking a cigar. And there was a chair in the front of his desk. I walked up, stood on the chair, stepped up on his desk, unzipped my pants, took my dick out. I said, let me explain something to you, motherfucker. If I ever wait for you 4 hours again, you need to have someone sucking my dick or you're going to have to do it when I get in here. I said, my time is just as important as your time, okay? If you want to see me at 5 o'clock, you tell me 5 o'clock. Don't tell me 10 o'clock in the fucking morning and have me sitting here. Now, fuck you, fuck your record company, fuck your interview, I'm out of here. Boom, I went and caught a plane back to Nashville. Well, oh, man, I mean, that was the big thing, you know. I mean, you think Ozzy, when he bit the head off the bat, created a disturbance. David Allan Coe telling that record company executive to suck his dick, that was a big deal, you know. And, I mean, I don't know if the guy ever got over it, to tell you the truth, you know. But I know one thing, that anytime that I ever had to meet him after that, I never had to wait. I know that. You see, in Nashville, I was the first guy. Up until then, if you got a $20 advance out of them pricks, you was good. I walked in and said, I want $1 million. And they laughed at me. I said, okay, when you get the money, I'll bring you the masters. I want $1 million. That's what I want. So they came back and they said, would you take $750,000? I said, I'll get back to you in a couple days. So, you know, it changed the whole scene in Nashville, Tennessee, you know. All of a sudden, because in my mind, I'm thinking, what incentive do these guys have to promote me? They ain't got no money invested in me. I'm the only one that's got anything invested in me. Now, if this motherfucker's got $700,000 on the table, he's got to get back. He's going to have to sell something. And back then, to be in all honesty, it's like I did things in a big way, okay? Country and Western singers, as a rule and as a whole, traveled on a bus with their band. David Allan Coe had 5 18-wheelers and 6 buses on the road. I carried my own sound system, my own light systems, my own everything, my own staging, everything. So we'd get to a show where we was the opening act for Loretta Lynn, and she's sitting there in her one little bus, and we come pulling in with all these 18-wheelers and all this stuff and all this equipment, and all of a sudden she's going, well, I'm not going on after this. You know, you let him go on last. I'll go on first. This guy's obviously a bigger star than me. Until I came along, nobody knew what a songwriter was. If they heard somebody singing a song, they just assumed that guy wrote the song. No problem. And then I came along and I said, a friend of mine named Steve Goodman wrote this song. And then people started thinking, well, wait a minute, David's singing a song that somebody else wrote. Maybe we should try to find out about songwriters. And that's what happened with Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan was writing all these great songs. Nobody knew who Bob Dylan was. All these people were singing these songs. And then finally, you know, someone said, well, wait a minute. This guy's a songwriter. David Allan Coe said they're songwriters. Let's look and see who the songwriter is on these songs. Well, then they started seeing Bob Dylan this, Bob Dylan that, and they go, well, maybe we should try to find out who Bob Dylan is. But geez, I mean, I can't count the times when back in the 60s, I would go to do a concert and people would come to me and say, hey man, why are you singing them Elvis Presley songs? And I go, I wrote them songs. Why are you singing them Johnny Cash songs? I wrote them songs. Why are you singing the Johnny Paycheck song? I wrote the song. Why are you singing them Tanya Tucker songs? Dude, I wrote the song. It's my song. They sang it, but I wrote it. I mean, it's my song. Dude, this is where I live. You probably won't be able to see it, but like I got a full-blown whole recording studio here, dude. These are my keyboards right here, and the whole recording studio here. It's a TV monitor where I watch. This is a monitor for the studio, and 24-track recording studio right here, and got my own shower and bedroom and all that stuff. Got some pictures of some of my friends like Leon Spinks there. So I try to surround myself with different things. I've got one of Dimebag Darrell's guitars hanging in my bathroom on my bus, and There's like pictures of me and Dimebag and Kid Rock here, and there's a picture of me and Uncle Cracker. And of course I got Willie Nelson up here, and Leon just died. He was one of the original bass player for Leonard Skinner band, and he just passed away. He came out and, well, there's another picture of him right there too. Came out and I introduced him to Kid Rock.
He did a track with Kid Rock too, right?
And just have a lot of, try to surround myself with a lot of things that I get energy from, you know. My influences in my life are so far beyond what people could imagine. I mean, I grew up listening to Spike Jones and the Glenn Miller Orchestra, and you know, I mean, so many different things. The Ink Spots and the Moonglows and the Temptations and Hank Ballard and the Midnighters and Chuck Berry and Little Richard and Fats Domino and Elvis Presley and Hank Williams and Johnny Cash and Ernest Tubb and Bill Monroe and Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs and Louis Bell Scotty, and just there's goes from one extreme to the other, one end of the spectrum to the other. I take things very seriously. When Marty Robbins died, when Bill Monroe died, when Waylon died, I take a marker and write their names on my forehead, and I wear black, and that night I sing all their songs and pay tribute to them. I'm probably the only musician in the world that does something like that, pay tribute to other musicians like that, you know? But to me, those people accepted me for what I was and who I was, no matter what. And the greatest example of that is Bill Anderson. Nobody would have ever thought that Bill Anderson and David Allan Coe could have ever been friends or could have ever made a record together, you know? But Bill Anderson, I call him up back when I'm at the height of my career, and I said, Bill, when I was in prison, I used to hear a song you wrote called Get a Little Dirt on Your Hands. And I want to record that song, but I want you to come in and sing with me. And he said, sure, no problem. We did the record, we released it, it became a #1 single. Bill calls me and says, hey, I'm at the Grand Ole Opry tonight. I want you to come out and be my guest. So I go to the Grand Ole Opry. The guard stops me at the door. They won't let me in. And so I'm trying to explain to him who I am. And he calls somebody and he says, there's some hippie here with long hair, and he says he's a friend of Bill Anderson's. He says, I don't know what to do. He says, can anybody get a hold of Bill? So the main guy comes out and takes one look at me. He goes back and when Bill tells him, oh yeah, you know, he says, Bill, we do not have time for you to have this guy as your guest. And Bill said to them, oh, well, that's fine, no problem. I won't play tonight. I'll be back next Saturday, and David will be my guest, so you got plenty of time to work that out. And the next Saturday, I go back, and Bill Anderson's guest on the Grand Ole Opry. I got 4 encores. And when I came off stage, all them people wanted to get their picture taken with me and invite me back to the Grand Ole Opry anytime. So I have a lot of love and respect for Bill Anderson. So I go from that spectrum to the Uncle Cracker, Kid Rock, Pantera, you know, Dead Kennedys, you know, Hank Williams III. You know, that's a great case in point. You know, Hank Williams III. Now there's a boy, I just did some shows with him, and he does a half country show and a half rock and roll show. And he tells you when he's through playing country music, ladies and gentlemen, they paid me to play here for 1 hour. Now, if you don't like what I'm going to play next, you need to get the fuck out of here, because this is what I do. He takes his hair out of the braid, and I mean, heavy metal all the way. I mean, you wouldn't even know it was the same guy, same band or anything. I mean, he's straight up heavy metal. you know, and he's good at it. Another a great songwriter and a great influence on me is Uncle Cracker, and I do want to talk about Uncle Cracker a little bit. Uncle Cracker is just a great guy. He is one of the co-writers on almost all the songs on Kid Rock's album, and he's got his own album out called Double Wide, and he just had a hit single called Follow Me, which we're going to be doing for this album. Kimberly and I are going to sing that, I think, in the live show from Billy Bob's. But Cracker's a great songwriter. People ask about the collaboration between Kid Rock and David Allan Coe, and they say, you know, why do you like this guy? Why do you like Kid Rock? You know, and because I see in Kid Rock, I see a young David Allan Coe. I see a young version of me. You know, all the things that I was doing years ago, way ahead of their time. This boy does it. I mean, I used to ride my Harley Davidson on stage. I used to give people the finger. All the things that this kid does is stuff that I did back 25 years ago, you know. But it just wasn't acceptable then, you know. And the thing I like about this kid is that he does not take all that stuff that seriously, that rock and roll superstar bullshit. And he's not controllable, see. The last thing in the world that anybody that works for Kid Rock wanted to see was David Allan Coe on tour with Kid Rock. They did not want that to happen. They told him, this ain't going to happen. He said, no, this is going to happen. David Allan Coe is going to be on this tour. Now, if I got to cut 2 songs out of my show or 3 songs out of my show to give him room to be on that stage, that's what's going to happen. He's going to be on this show, gentlemen. So you figure it out. This is what we're going to do. Well, the first night, we go out, and unbeknown to me, after I just did my little 20-minute thing with the guitar before the show starts, and in the middle of a Kid Rock show, he just stops, and he says, you know what? He said, what do you people know about outlaw country music? He said, let me play you a great song, and he starts singing You Never Even Call Me By My Name, and he calls me out on the stage. And we sing it together, and when we get to the end, and I say to his audience, well, tell Kid Rock what happened, and they all scream, Mama got run over by a damned old train. And he looked at me, and he looked at the guys that worked for him, and he said, you tell me this ain't working? He said, I know this is working. So we did those 2 tours together, and then I'm watching the Grammys the other night. Well, everybody knows the mode of dress for the Grammys is tuxedo, black tie, whatever. There's my partner with a T-shirt and Levi's on. Well, then they got these little cue cards with these little funny jokes on them. You know? He don't even look at the cue card. He said, I would like to take this opportunity to mention Waylon Jennings, a great musician that just died. And that's why David Allan Coe and Kid Rock are friends.
My tribute to the outlaw, David Allan. Mona Lisa lost her smile.
A man with nothing ain't got nothing to lose.
Jack Daniels, if you please. Cowboys do more dope
And rock and rollers.
Please come to Dimebags. We got lots of booze. The very first time I met David Allan Coe, I came out here. I've always been a fan of his music. He's always been a hell of a songwriter, the best country and western outlaw songwriter ever. And I wanted to come back and say hi to the cat and meet him and say, what's up, dude, just shake his hand, say I met David Allan Coe, Man came back and he said, sit down, It was right there. There was a couch in here, and we sat down and we talked for like 2 hours, nonstop. And we had so much in common. It was ridiculous, because what we are to heavy metal, we are the rebels and the hellraisers of heavy metal, and that's what he is to country and western. And just all the values and stuff that we, the way we see shit in life was just right on the money. We hit it off like that. The whole thing with us jamming together is, like I said, met him, we hung out, found out how much shit we had in common, and just on his spare time off and our spare time off, whenever we could hook up, we'd hook up. I got a studio in the back of my house. We just go down there and just start just start fresh out of nowhere and say, hey man, you got an idea or this or that, break an acoustic guitar out and start jamming.
It was a trip, man, because we didn't know what to expect. You
Right.
know, we had no idea where it was going. And first time the dude showed up to actually jam, we were like, man, this is going to be a trip, because we've always done Pantera and our thing, and we know how we work, but then having another person there and finding out how they work. And the first song we wrote was Nothing to Lose.
Yeah.
And it was just...
Steamroller.
We wrote 3 songs the first 2 days he was there, and after that, every time he'd come down, it was like 2 or 3 songs, and it just fell into place, man. It was easy. I mean, he's a great songwriter, and obviously, we've done pretty well with the kind of music that we do, and all of us together, man, it worked pretty good. One of the reasons why David Allan Coe is a legend is anybody that can tell you that they taught Charles Manson how to play guitar while they were in prison together has been somewhere, and the main reason, of course, is his songwriting. The songs are timeless, they'll live on past all of us forever, and he's just an outlaw. He's an outlaw. He's against the system. He's totally into his own thing, and fuck anybody else if they don't like it. When he was writing one of the songs, I don't remember which one, but he had his notepad and he was in the studio and he was writing. He was all intense, and we took this sound effects CD that we had and just stuck it in the CD player, and it has these dogs barking, bees flying, and we all just walked out of the room and kind of dimmed the lights down, and he's sitting there and he's so intense writing
So
the words.
into it.
He doesn't even realize what's going on, and all this cars honking and everything, and
he just totally
he's writing
cuts
this
it out.
shit, and he finally gets done, and he's like, what the hell's going on in here? What's all that going on?
Man, he's one of the most humane, loving, caring, honest people I've ever met in my life. And it's been nothing but beautiful shit since then, man, since I met him. All right. David, brother, here's to you.
A man with nothing ain't got nothing to lose.
Are you laid back? Have you been bombed out for like 3 days or something?
Been bombed out my whole life. What are you talking about? Sounded good up there. Great show. Fantastic. Damn good
Best
time.
one yet, ain't it?
Crowd loved it. Crowd was fucking
Fucking
phenomenal.
motherfuckers love y'all, man. Fucking kill
It was
me.
some good shit.
You can't say love on the camera, Don. You can say fuck, but you can't say love.
Hey, man.
They say if you tattoo a woman's name on you, she'll leave you. The bitch said, I'm not leaving, motherfucker. I don't care how many times you tattoo my name on you.
What happens with him when I got DAC tattooed on my leg?
That means we love each other.
Means he ain't
Check
going
it out.
nowhere. He's not going nowhere.
DAC. Right there it is.
With the black tooth, didn't you?
Hell yeah, right above the black tooth.
And if your camera will go through
We
my
should do a
heart,
shot.
you'll see Pantera wrote on my heart if you can get past that skin.
Right on.
It'll say Pantera right on my heart there on the inside underneath that skin there. Pantera forever and ever.
Rebel meets rebel.
That means Rumble.
That my son can go anywhere I go. Anywhere I go. He said, well, I don't know if I want him to come be raised in that lifestyle. I said, he's been in Christian school. I said, it's just the thing he needs is to come from that Christian school and get on this bus and learn about real fucking life, lady. Because that's what he's going to be living in, is real life. So my son coming with 15, he's 17 years old now. Never been 1 minute's problem to me. I've never had a problem out of that boy. Like I said, when I was his age, I was on death row. So, as far as I'm concerned, he is a great kid, a talented kid, smart kid. He's not interested in drugs. He's all the things that you worry about. He has no interest in that. He drinks a little bit, but I think that's fine. I don't think that'll hurt him. Cusses a lot, but he's had a bad example as a father as far as cussing is concerned, so I don't hold that against him either. But he tells you what he thinks, what's on his mind. He doesn't beat around the bush about nothing. If you ask him something, he's going to give you a direct answer. If you don't like it, fuck you. That's too bad.
Being in this band in particular is quite an experience because I'm really learning a lot because we had great musicians in this band, and we don't know what we're gonna play. Like, he told me how to play some chords, threw me on the stage, and said, just watch what I'm doing. And I gotta do that, and that's cool, because it's not just teaching me scales or anything, it's knowing how to be able to pick up on something and just go with it. And that's what you need to know. I've only been actually doing the touring playing thing for 4 months, but I've been the touring thing for like 2 years, and I've been like on the road my whole life. And it's not easy, but I couldn't do anything else because I don't know anything else. I appreciate the fact that he can be my dad. He's not business with me. We can just sit and talk, or we can sit and not talk. It's fine. Because, you know, sometimes it's better just to sit and not talk, because talking gets old sometimes, you know. I am happy with the arrangement that we have.
That little monkey there is a thing that I got going on with my girlfriend. You know, like if I'm trying to write or something and she comes by to try to talk to me, I'll point to the monkey, which means don't monkey around with me, you know.
Beats the hell out of the F word.
Yeah, when I don't want to talk, I just point to the monkey, you know.
Right.
Don't want to do that. My son likes to tell everybody that I'm not responsible. You know, once I become David Allan Coe, the singer, on stage, and it's probably true, because I don't know what happens, but I've always, if I had an argument with my wife or something, you know, and I'd get on stage and start doing my show, I might just stop in the middle of the thing and say, you know, bitch, I've been just thinking about what you were saying. You know, and that ain't right. I said, y'all just wait a minute here. I got to get something straight with this woman. You know? And I just go off on the deep end, you know. I have the biggest problem with women that are my girlfriends, and they'll say to me, like I'll be somewhere and she'll say, okay, I'm going to the bathroom. Well, 2 hours later, the bitch still ain't back. So I know she ain't in the bathroom, okay? Now, what I try to explain to them is this. Now, if you and I are robbing a bank, and I tell you, sit in the goddamn car till I come out, and I come out, and you're over here looking at dresses in the shop down the street, I'm a dead motherfucker. You know what I mean? You gotta be in the car, bitch. If you said you was gonna be in the car, you gotta be in the car. You know what I mean? So now, you know what I say? I tell my girlfriend, I said, today, this is what I'm gonna do. If you wanna do it with me, that's fine. And if you don't, then that's fine too. You can find you something else to do. But I don't give a fuck what you wanna do. I'm not interested in that. I'm only interested in what I wanna do. Because this is about me. See, if I die tomorrow, you're still gonna be living. So, you know, and I'll tell you something, I gotta be David Allan Coe in the morning when I wake up. You don't have to be. You can get on a bus, you can ride out here, you can catch a plane. I said, but I gotta get up in the morning, and I gotta go out there and I gotta do a show tonight. It don't matter if my father died 20 minutes ago, if my mother died, if one of my kids is in the hospital having an operation. I gotta go out here and sing, because that's what I said I would do. I signed a contract to do that, that's what I gotta do. I said, so now in order for me to do that, you know, I gotta be in the right frame of mind. There's certain things I wanna do, okay? And I said, I like to gamble. If you don't like to gamble, that's fine. You find yourself something else to do, you know? But don't fuck with me. Don't come down and say, are you going to put any more money in that machine? Or don't you think you ought to get something to eat? Or don't you think, you know, I'll tell you when I want to eat. I'll tell you when I want to do whatever I want to do, you know? Now, if I turn to you in a day and say, hey, today's your day, hon, what do you want to do? You need to have your list. I'll do whatever you want to do, you know? But I am through living my life for other fucking people. Well, Free My Mind is Kid Rock did a song that him and Uncle Cracker wrote called Wasting Time. And I kind of liked the idea of the thing, but I wanted to make it more my own, because Kid Rock says things like, I'm a pimp, you can check my stats, rolling to Fleetwood, that's how I'm act. That's his thing. He's Detroit, that's his thing. Well, that ain't my thing. So I rewrote the whole thing to apply to me. You know, I'm a cosmic cowboy, big time player. I like Pantera, Kid Rock, and Slayer. I like Ice-T, the rapper. I mean, when it comes to drinking, I like Jim Beam. It's David Allan Coe. And then in the chorus, I do free my mind instead of wasting time. And so I sent him a copy, and I said, you know, is this cool? And I can give you and Cracker credit, you know, as a songwriter. We'll just call it Free My Mind and have the 3 writers on there. He said, fuck it, you can just put your own name on there if you want to. But Bob's like that. He don't ever want to take credit for nothing. And because in my mind, when him and I are working on things together, and even though if I might have write the song, and then we get in the studio and he says, well, wait, I think you ought to slow this down, or I think we need a banjo here. So as far as I'm concerned, he's got as much input in that song as I do. I want to share that with him. Take This Job and Shove It was, I was living on one of my boats in Nashville, Tennessee at the time. And I was living in polygamy then. I had 7 wives. And I took 2 of my wives to a movie. We was coming back and we heard these sirens blowing, and I thought, well, those sound like fire trucks, and it sounds like it's coming from the boat dock. So we was on our way to Johnny Cash's house, but I thought, well, I'm gonna go just check it out. So I went over there, and sure enough, the boat dock was on fire. So I started cutting people's boats loose and pushing them out in the water, try to keep, you know, save the boats. And the newspapers came there and they wrote the big story about David Allan Coe, you know, saving everybody's boat and shit. And about a week later, we was out on Billy Sherrill's boat, and a bunch of us sitting around talking. And somebody said, asked me, said, David, how would you like to be a fireman? Because I guess a couple of firemen got hurt. And I said, man, they can take that job and shove it. And I looked at Billy, and he looked at me, and he said, you remember when you and Christopherson was out, and you said, why me, Lord? And Chris went home and wrote a song called Why Me, Lord? Because you were too fucking stupid to write it? He said, you need to go write this one, dude. So I went over to my boat, and I wrote Take This Job and Shove It in about 5 minutes. I come back over and played it for him. And at the time, I wasn't into being a singer. I was just into living on my boat and traveling around, diving, searching for treasure, treasure hunter, gambler, whatever. I wasn't too much into the music business thing. And so he told me Johnny Paycheck was, well, he told me George Jones was going to record in the morning. He was going to play it for George. Then they called me the next day and told me George didn't show up, which we all know what that's all about, no-show Jones. So anyway, he said, Johnny Paycheck's here, and he loves this. And I said, who the fuck is Johnny Paycheck? So he told me. So Paycheck gets on the phone, and, hey, brother, let me I really love this song, brother, and I'll do this song, brother. And so he cuts the song, and it goes to #1, big hit record. And my mother calls me one day, and she says, Johnny Paycheck's on television. I said, turn it on. So I turn it on. And he's on the Carson show, and Carson says, well, John, who wrote this song? And Johnny Paycheck says, oh, some guy in Nashville. And man, that just broke my heart, you know. Single father. I've been a single father most of my life. And when I say that, I mean not actually a single father in the father role, but the fact that I haven't had my children in a relationship. All my earlier marriages, when a divorce came, I was not allowed to see my kids or have any contact with my children whatsoever. And my son Tyler, my oldest son, turned 15, and he just told his mom one day, he said, I'm going to go live with my dad. And she called me on the phone and said, your son doesn't want to stay here anymore. She says, I'm thinking about taking him down to a juvenile. I said, no, you don't take my son to no juvenile, nothing, you know? No, they did that to me, okay? That my son can go anywhere I go, anywhere I go. I thought about how many single fathers that there are. And since I've been a single father, I found out that with him, it wasn't a big deal. But now my younger son, Jesus, when I have him on the road, I mean, I absolutely don't know what to do. I ain't gonna sit there and watch Puff the Magic Dragon or the cartoons and stuff like that with a little kid. It ain't, I can't hold my interest. And so I used to just, I guess, cop out by taking him to McDonald's. Hey, we'll go to McDonald's, get you a Happy Meal, or, buy him a train and we'd try to put it together, on the floor, on the living room floor and stuff. And my son said to me, Dad, that's great shit, man. You don't understand. He said, single father, that's great shit. You didn't know what to do with the little boy, so you took him to McDonald's. I mean, why can't you just say that? You took him to McDonald's. Who's stopping you from saying that? Who's stopping you from saying, I mean, what, are you afraid to show that side of yourself? Are you afraid that people's going to think you're a weak motherfucker because you put a train together with your little boy on the floor? He says, people need to see that side of you, Dad. So I sat down and wrote the song, Single Father. I played it for him, and he says, that's it. He says, you got it, dude. So I love it. Well, Jack Daniels, if you please, was, like I said, my father was a big drinker. And he was abusive, man. Like I said, he beat his wife. God, I mean, I've seen him put her head through a wall and she would, my brother, if you talk to my brother later, my oldest brother, he'll tell you that she brought it on herself because she was one of them women that would just say, come on, hit me, motherfucker, come on, just egging him on till he just crossed the line till he couldn't see no more. Fuck you, you pussy, you ain't gonna hit me, and boom, there it goes, it's off. Well, hit me again, shit, dude, it was just like, so one night, my mom, because every Friday when he gets paid, of course, back in them days, as soon as the dude gets paid, they go to the bar. I mean, and the woman tries to catch them before they spend their paycheck, so she can pay the bills. So my mom got tired of getting beat up in front of the people in the bar when she went down there to get my dad. So she'd send one of us kids down there to go get your daddy. So I go in to get my father. He's sitting there with a bunch of his buddies drinking. He said, yeah, I know what this is. He's sending my boy down here to get me, And I said, what's up, Pop? You coming home, or what do you want me to tell her, I said, I don't want to hang around in here, And he said, just 1 minute. And he ordered shots, whiskey. And he said, Jack Daniels, if you please, knock me to my fucking knees. Boom. And he took that whiskey down and he said, let's go home. And I remembered that all my life. And so when I got to writing songs one night, I thought, Jack Daniels, if you please, knock me to my knees. You're the only friend there's ever been that didn't do me wrong. And I took it from being a whiskey to being a guy, and it could be the guy or it could be the whiskey. The guy's name is Jack Daniels that you're with, or it could be the whiskey. I kind of did a songwriter thing there on that. And but it was one of the first songs that Kid Rock identified with that I wrote, and it was one of the first songs Pantera identified. Pantera used to play that song before their concerts every night. David Allan Coe singing Jack Daniels, if you please, and when the song's over, Pantera was on stage playing. And they had their Jack Daniels bottles up there. I used to believe in the American dream, And I married a woman. We were married 14 years, and we got 4 children, and we own 4 houses, and we own all of our cars, and we've got money in the bank, and we've got life insurance policies, and that's how I was brought up to believe. If you supported your family and you was a good man, and you worked hard and you did that thing that you would be together the rest of your lives, you know. Well, then I wake up one day and out of the clear blue sky, this woman wants a divorce. She takes the houses, she takes the cars, she takes the money in the bank, she gets the insurance policies, and everything I worked for all my life is gone. It's totally gone. And I thought, you know, if you didn't have anything that someone could take away from you, you'd be better off. You know, nothing. If you didn't have nothing, you'd have nothing to lose. I thought about that. And then I thought about I'm a gambler. I win big and I lose big. But I'm a gambler. It's what I do. Get a lot of criticism from, you know, people say, dude, why, you know, why do you do that? Why? I enjoy it. I like to gamble, you know? So what am I supposed to do? Put more money in a bank for another motherfucker to take? I pay my bills. If I've got 10 grand left over after my bills are paid, I'm gonna go take a shot, dude, you know? I'm gonna gamble and do something I enjoy. I work hard all my life for this. I was in prison half my life. I'd find something I like to do. Could be worse. I could have a drug habit, you know, that was 20 grand a week, you know. I could be shooting up fucking heroin. But I choose to gamble, play slot machines, big deal, you know. So, you know, I might lose 20,000. I might win 100,000, you know. It's just what I like to do. And then I got to thinking about it, you know. I mean, if you go to the doctor and the doctor says, hey, you know, you got 6 months to live, what the fuck's going to be important to you then, dude? What kind of mouthwash you use, what kind of toothpaste you use, is that going to be important to you? Is it going to be important to you to get up and exercise? Try to lose your stomach maybe? You're going to worry about what you eat? Fuck no. You got 6 months to live, you're going to fucking live, dude, you know? That's just all there is to it. So, you know, like the song says, the doctor tells me I don't have long to live, and all my friends say they'd hate to be in my shoes. But what the fuck? If you ain't got nothing, you ain't got nothing to lose, you know? If I live 6 months, good. If I live 7, good. You know, they told Steve Goodman he wouldn't live to be 15 years old, and he lived to be in his 30s. So, you know, he had leukemia. So, I mean, I think I got a good shot at it. But anyway, that's how the song came about. And then when I got involved in a project with Pantera, we put that together. Yeah, Willie Waylon and Me was actually probably the song that started what they call outlaw country music movement. It was the song that said it all about what we were up to and what we were doing and what we believed in. And it was probably the turning point, and it probably paved the way for Mamas Don't Want Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys and all the great things that Willie and Waylon went on to do together and have great success with that. Also, you know, Waylon just died, and I want to let people know that Waylon Jennings was always my hero and a big part of my life. When I die, I wish people would just think of me as a great entertainer. You know, I entertain people. Elvis Presley told me, play to the audience in front of you. That's what I do. I play to the audience in front of me. If I'm playing in Las Vegas, I do a Las Vegas show. I tell jokes. I play to the audience in front of me. I entertain people, you know. That's what I do. And I don't really care if they think I'm a great singer or a great songwriter or whatever, but it's a total all-around package, you know. Great magician, great ventriloquist, whatever. You know, great actor. Whatever, just you know, he entertained people. That's what he did. That cough there is from a Humphrey Bogart film. I learned that. I've been trying to practice it. It's a great cough. It's a cough that says you should take a drink of water. I learned that. That's a Al Pacino thing. Got that. That's kind of a Kid Rock, David Allan Coe thing, and that's another kind of a Al Pacino thing, you know. Anyway, on behalf of Martha White Flower, I'd like to thank you for watching this. So hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, you will see me as myself, and you will not be ashamed that you bought this DVD.